everybody, and welcome to this episode. The topic of this episode is different systems to opening and closing your sessions with your talking board, aka Ouija Board. Okay, so I had a lot of questions asked to me recently, and I've had it come through people's concerns, how they're using the board, how they're starting it, how they're closing it. What are the best ways to do that? Is their way good? Is there other ways to do it? Are some ways not as appropriate? All kinds of questions about this subject, opening and then closing a session. Well, it's very good to be thinking about these things because I believe that every time you do any kind of sacred work, work in the other dimensions, also just work in a hypnotherapy session or as a therapist in a therapy session, there's always a beginning and there's always an ending. There's an opening and moving into that space, then there is a closing down and leaving that space. Really important to do with any such work as when you're working with navigating the unseen dimensions. So, welcome to Creative Visions TV. I'm your host, Karen Dahlman, and thank you for joining me here. Okay, so we're talking about opening and closing a session. So I really like to keep it simple. I have three simple things that I like to focus upon. The first is breath, the second is prayer, and then the third is connection. So how do I do this? Now, let me back up first. My way is not the only way or the right way. There are many, many ways. So as I'm sharing the ways I do it, I'm going to help you also look at ways that's going to work best for you. Number one, the first thing I have to say to you that what works best for you is what you're already using. What are you already employing within your life when you do any kind of sacred work? For example, when you're meditating, what is it you like to do? Do you like to use your breath to deepen your meditation? Do you like to use your thoughts, your imagery, a guided meditation? What is it that you do to get into that state? Now that's just an example. Other people might employ systems that they've used for years, such as casting a circle. A lot of people write to me and talk to me about that. And yes, if that works for you, by all means use it. Again, the key here is use what works the best for you, that takes you into that sacred space. Did you hear that? It's use what takes you into that sacred space. Because I'm going to tell you, there's two main ingredients that I always focus upon. Any session I do, whether it's on the board, whether it's on tarot cards, whether it's working with somebody one-on-one, when I was in my private practice as a therapist, there's really two things that I work on, and these two things are to me, key ingredients and factors. One is your vibration, and two is your intention. Where are you at in your heart when you come to the sessions? Where are you? How do you feel? Where are you elevated? Do you feel joy? Are you glad to be there? Do you feel gratitude? Do you feel an openness? These are all higher vibratory feelings, as opposed to when you feel down and in the dumps and angry and upset. Those are low vibratory feelings. So get yourself into higher vibrations. And the other key ingredient is always your intentions. What's your motivation, your drive, your desire behind a session? What do you intend to happen? What do you want to have happen? What do you believe will have happen? Okay. Hold those into the back of your mind while I'm talking about, again, the three simple things I do when I open a session and close it. A quick recap, I always breathe, I use prayer, and then I use connection. Okay, breath. The breath is the power of life. All cultures, all ancient communities, all tribes, all groups of antiquity talked about the power of the breath. Without breath, we wouldn't be alive. So my guides like to call it the breath of life. So I really focus on the breathing. Breathing is one of the most important things you can do for your body for many different reasons. And it's not just for a spiritual reason, it's for physical reasons. It really can help ground you. It can help clear out the mind. It helps release toxins in the body. It actually is the way our body releases a lot of stuff is through the breath and how we process it too. Most of us don't breathe deep enough. We breathe very shallow. We breathe way up here where we should be breathing more into our diaphragm. So when I come to the board, I really focus on my breath. If you watch my sessions, you'll see me that I really employ this technique, and this is how I start the sacred work. So I get into my center and breathe down deep into my body and bring that breath back up into my heart and breathe in and out of love. Now I talk about this, it's in my books. It's one of the most key important things to start with. It is one of the sacred elements, but it's also a way to ground yourself and relax yourself. So I use breath. So see if you can start employing breath in your sessions. It really, lightens the load in one regards, and it also helps ground you. Now, the second thing I talked about was prayer. So I breathe first, and then I go into a prayer. Again, if you watch my live sessions, or if you watch sessions pre-recorded, you'll see me talk about that and use it. I will do a prayer. It could be an invocation. Many of you who use other types of practices have certain maybe invocations or mantras you like to say, certain rituals, prayer. I just like to use the word prayer because I've always prayed. Most of us out there have prayed. So I always use a prayer. I start my sessions that way. And what that does, it actually helps raise the vibration. Remember I talked about those two key things, vibration and intentions? Those two key factors? Well, the prayer raises it. The guides once told me not to be worried so much about protection, it's to worry about getting your vibrations up to a level of the beings in which you want to communicate. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't want to talk to the lower astral level. I have no desire. I want to work with those beings who can bring and help me understand more about the universe, more about my life, and more applicable things that will help me grow into my greatest self and to express that in the world. I want to be enlightened and enlivened and feel better for it and uplifted. So I say a prayer to raise my vibration, and I say a prayer for everybody in the room, including my partner I use the board with, to help raise all of our vibrations to a very similar level so we feel like we're at the same level. And we are, once we get to that level, then it's like we meet the energies that we want to meet at that point because we raised our vibration. So prayer will allow you to do that. And also prayer allows you to set your intentions. Again, if you watch me and have heard some of my shows, you will see, and also in my books I talk about this, you will read or see how I use prayer and how I state my intentions during that prayer. So whatever way you state your intentions, include that. Try that. It may be in the form of your ritual. It may be something you write down on the paper you're using. It may be something you say out loud. But get real clear on your intentions for using the board. And my intentions are pretty much the same every time now when I come to the board. Unless I'm doing a very specialized session for somebody and I'm working with maybe connecting with their deceased animal, or they want to bring in their guides, then it gets really focused. But typically my intentions are I come to the board to seek universal truth, guidance, wisdom, and love, and to be with all of those who have the best interest of my heart in theirs. So I start with that to really open and welcome these higher vibratory beings. Now, the third thing I do to keep it simple is just the connection. And the connection is made because I have breathed into my body. I'm connecting now to my body. I'm connecting to the energies. I'm breathing in and out of my heart. I'm opening myself up, so I'm connecting. And the prayer really connects you deeply into what it is you're trying to connect. And again, as I said, it raises your vibrations to a higher elevation, and it brings in your intentions and sets those really clear. So everybody in the room, including your partner, if it's just you alone, it makes it real clear to you. And I really like the spoken word out loud because that's like I'm stating it and it becomes that much more solid for me as I hear it in my ears and also as I say it through my mouth. It's like a feeling I feel and then I get to hear it too. And then the connection it becomes really strong at that point because I've pulled in the vibrations, the intentions, and I've done these 3 steps to be able to open my session. Now it sounds like a lot, but it really isn't. So again, these are just suggestions I have. You all have your own suggestions, and I really highly recommend incorporate those that you're already using into your session, because after all, your board work is really not just a separate thing you do. It's an extension of you. So my secret ingredient to all of this is that I do a lot of work on myself with the energies away from, outside of the board. I do most of my work working with my vibration, my intentions, my prayer, my connections. I do in breath, I do that away from the board. And it's through different practices I work with every day. I love to do yoga, so I really focus on the breath and the movement. I enjoy doing my meditations, which could be a walking meditation, it could be a sitting meditation, it could be a journaling exercise, it could be a guided meditation. I do all kinds of different meditations, and it depends on the day and what I'm feeling. I'm always employing my breath. That's a key ingredient here for me, is employing my breath. And then I like to do automatic writing, I like to do voice channeling, and I also like to do a lot of contemplation and reflection, and read and study and learn and talk to people and just become more of a sponge to absorb what other people are doing and see where it fits with me and where it doesn't, and throw the rest away. So find what works for you, and you'll find what works for you by starting with what's important to you when you do any of this type of work. So remember that. Really include those pieces and practices that have helped you do any kind of work within the other dimensions. So try to keep it simple. We don't need to get overboard with this. Make it where it fits with your life. You might try a few different things when you come to a session, but just really be aware. The idea is you want to be present while you're doing these things, and they have meaning to you to, again, raise your vibrations. Now, closing a session. It's not as involved as opening it, but closing, I think, is important. Most people tell you that the planchette must go to goodbye. It doesn't have to, but it's great to get into practice of saying goodbye and ending your session. Why? It's not because I have a fear that something's going to linger on. That's not my fear. That might be somebody else's fear, but that's not my fear. That's not even a concern. I want to close it because it's a way of having reverence for the space and respect for the energies in which I just communicated with. It's like having a phone call and hanging up on somebody. I want to say goodbye. I want to end it, let them know we're done. And also it allows me to take my energy that's been raised and then lower it and settle back into more of who I am on a daily level. So when I do this work, the energy really spirals up high, and I can feel the emotion of it, I can feel the energy of it, I get just higher than high, than any kind of high. It feels really beautiful within. Another reason why I really like to do it. But it really feels great within, and so I need to bring that energy back down, so I'm not up in the clouds, but I'm back grounded again. And so that's really important for me to also end the session. So when I end the session, one thing that I really like to do is say, thank you. Thank you goes a long ways with people, with humanity, and with these other beings and other dimensions. And that includes our deceased loved ones as well. But thank you goes a long ways. We're so used when we say thank you that our energy becomes really respectful. You settle back in it. It feels very kind. And that energy is emitting when you do that. So I always say thank you for the session. We appreciated your time. We appreciated the messages. And with that I say goodbye. And then it's over. It ends and I've closed it. And then I can put the board away, walk away, and the session is over, and now I go about the rest of my life, whatever I need to do in that daily moment of living. So, love to hear what you do. Leave your comments below of different ways that you open and close the session and what's important to you. Because I think when people read through the comments, they can learn something from each other, something that you've tried that really has helped you, or a system that you've employed that you've been using. I think it's really cool, and I love hearing all this. So thank you for watching this episode, and thank you for making your comments below and let me know what works for you. And thank you again for being here and joining this channel. I'm Karen Dahlman. The show is Creative Visions TV, and I want to say get out there and explore this expansive universe that is ours for discovery. Have a great time, and bye-bye.